Well, it is now my pleasure to introduce Congressman Cedric Richmond. Congressman Richmond joins us tonight in celebrating tonight's winners. And I saw him as he walked in the room giving his best to Leah Chase. Congressman Richmond was elected to Congress in 2010 after serving 10 years in Louisiana's House of Representatives. He had 10 big years in the State House. Now, for those of you who are still talking, there's going to be a quiz on these statistics. So we'd appreciate your attentiveness, especially when Congressman Richmond comes to the podium. Thank you. So Congressman Richmond had 10 years in the State House, including the devastation of Hurricane Katrina in 2005 and the Gulf Coast oil spill of 2010. So he knows firsthand what it takes to help employers, residents, schools, and others build economies and communities. After Katrina, his work helped spur more than $250 million in investment in damaged areas. He also knows the power of small business, tourism, and keeping our nation's waterways and ports open for business. Since arriving in Washington, Congressman Richmond has taken a leading role in the House Homeland Security Committee and the House Small Business Committee, where he serves as a top Democrat on the Health Care and Technology Subcommittee. He's a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, the New Democrat Coalition, and the Congressional Gulf Coast Caucus. He's a Morehouse man, a graduate of Morehouse College, Tulane Law School, and Harvard's executive program at the John F. Kennedy School of Government. Please join me in welcoming Congressman Cedric Richmond.
First, that song brings up such memories right now, and when the Saints go walking in, we now think of the Super Bowl. But in recent developments, it's not been such a positive experience, but we all have our fingers crossed on this football season with our beloved New Orleans Saints. Let me thank you for having me here today, and there was absolutely no way that I would not be here to share and celebrate with Miss Leah Chase from New Orleans and what she has done in the community. And what she has done really is an example of not only the resilience and the fortitude of the people in New Orleans, but the character that makes it such a great city. And I know that we have many of our restaurant operators from New Orleans. I have to recognize Tommy Satanovich from Drago's, who was the king of this year's Washington Mardi Gras. And Tommy and his family operate a marvelous restaurant. I had a chance to eat there this week. And Tommy, I enjoyed the food, although I still cannot get the image of you in tights as king of Mardi Gras out of my mind. But as we talk about New Orleans and the restaurant industry, and one of the awards that we were singled out for was the award for Best Neighborhood Joints and Cafes. Truth of the matter is, every restaurant in New Orleans is a neighborhood joint. If you look at Dookie Chase, it's right next to houses and homes. If you look at Ralph's on the Park, it's right next to houses and homes. If you look at most of our restaurants, they are integral parts of our community. And the thing that people don't talk about a lot about restaurants, a lot of times it gives kids their first entree into the workforce. And when you talk about that, we need to go to the next statistic, which is when a kid gets a job, it reduces the chances of him dropping out of school by 50%. So in a country that's battling almost 50% dropout rates in urban communities, the restaurant industry plays a great role in keeping that from going up, and it can play a greater role in reducing it. So we need to brag about what we do. And since we're talking about bragging, I get to now brag on Miss Leah Chase. When you go in her restaurant, not only does she cook just marvelous food, she makes everybody feel important. So when I take people there to eat, when she comes out and she talks to me, they say, Cedric, you must be really important if Miss Chase came out to talk to you. And then after 10 minutes and they see her talk to everybody in the restaurant, they realize that I'm not that important. And then you look on her wall and you see the picture of President Bush sitting down to dinner. And then you see the picture of President Obama sitting down to dinner, and you think, wow, this is really a place that people come to enjoy the food, and it's a landmark in New Orleans because of the history of the Chase family. And the roots that go back very deep before African Americans could eat at other restaurants. Her restaurant was a place for people to eat. And as my parents and their friends talk about, it was a place that they went after their proms and dances at school. But even with presidents sitting there, that is not the biggest recognition that she received, and it's not the thing that, makes her cool. When you get a Disney character that is based off of your life in one of the animated films, and they make a character after you like they did after Miss Leah Chase and The Princess and the Frog, that's when you've truly arrived. And so for anyone out there that has children or grandchildren, and you get to take them to a Disney movie and say, well, that's your grandma they're talking about right there. That's a true sense of accomplishment. And I just want to thank the entire Louisiana Restaurant Association, their leadership, the Louisiana Seafood Association, and all of those, because the one thing we don't talk about in New Orleans is that we've weathered the storm. Doesn't matter which storm. Because it's like my grandmother used to always say, if it ain't one thing, it's another. And we truly have lived that. Whether it was Betsy, or we could go back more than that, whether it was the fires that burned down 80% of our city. Then 2 years later, another 20% burned down. Then you had Betsy. Then you had the World's Fair, which was an economic disaster for many small businesses and restaurants. Then you had Katrina and Rita. And then you had the oil spill, all of which took an enormous toll on our restaurant industry and our small businesses. But just like the people of New Orleans, our restaurant community dusted themselves off, got back up, started working, started employing people, started feeding people. And it's more than just feeding people, it's nourishment of the soul. And that's what we do in New Orleans. So to my restaurant community, and especially to Miss Leah Chase and her wonderful family that operates that restaurant, which is more than just a restaurant, but it's our little city hall on Orleans. Thank you for what you do, because what you do for us is vitally important. It's more about purpose than it is about profits. And that's the thing that people don't talk about a lot in the restaurant industry either. And then people would like to brag and say, oh, they're just making all of that money. The truth of the matter, it's about purpose. It's about doing something that makes people feel better. It's about all of the things that we learned when we were a kid, about helping those who need help, feeding those who are hungry. And if we can take other industries, if we can take this country and just look at what the restaurant industry has done, especially look at what Miss Leah Chase has done, then I think that this country would be in a much better position, and we're on the way to doing that. But we all could learn something from Miss Leah Chase, who I admire, who's one of my role models, and who I get to go by and eat her whole fried catfish on Fridays. So thank you for having me. Continue the work that you do. And I would be remiss if I did not recognize the operators of Zia's, where I eat and have fundraisers all the time. I don't see the pictures of Bush and Obama there, but I'll be more than happy to drop off. I'd be more than happy to drop off a picture of myself there, and we certainly can pretend that I'm somebody important, and then the Taste Buds Management Group can then say that Cedric Richmond eats here at Zia's all the time on St. Charles. I don't know if that'll get you anything, but at least it'll be a conversation piece, and if not necessary, it'll make a great coaster. So thank you for having me, and enjoy the rest of the night.